The story opens with a heavy rain falling outside a luxurious hotel. Inside, a group of menacing gang members enter the halls. The boss halted and inquired of his subordinate if Westgate dog meat was responsible for all of this. The subordinate affirmed, adding that 5 people had already been transported to the hospital. The boss was enraged by this, and realized that he had gone mad in showing mercy. Thereafter, they approached the guards and politely requested that they move aside. After knocking out the guard, he then meets his target while he was getting busy with his girls. He was taken aback to see that Joong Seok had finally arrived at his door. Joong Seok got really pissed off and threatens the man for trespassing in their turf. He then tells him to calm down and that it's simply a minor event. He also tells him that he's not the same as he was before and that he used to be called the human butcher, Incheon's crazy dog who was the best of all men. But now that he's old, he doesn't have the same flame he had in his eyes. So from now on, he'll no longer serve him as his Hyungnim anymore. After that, Jung Song asks him if he's finally finished with his chit-chat, then he tells his men Do Shik and Bigfoot to teach the man a lesson. And after pulling out their weapons, they immediately stabbed him in the back, which then led Joong Seok to realize that he's been betrayed. The new boss then laughed it off and told him that his time was up and had to be let go. After that, he knocks out the traitor standing beside him using his pent-up rage. And after throwing a tantrum, the boss told Joong Seok a diamond on a dunghill still a diamond. After that, as he snapped his fingers, more of his gang members came marching in and surrounded Joong Seok. The boss then told his men to escort their big brother outside the hotel. A while later, we can see a beat-up Joong Seok walking along the walls and out of breath. He then sat down and remembered the days when he was just a young student. At that time, he dropped out from school and later joined an organization. He was then able to survive by doing the dirty work such as chasing away the poor people who had nowhere else to go to, killed a detective who got too close, and all of the people he disabled through the gang fights. So with all that, this went on for 20 years and he finally became the ringleader of the gang that dominated Incheon, but even with all that, his life would only turn to a really rough ending. Now that it was too late to regret it, he closed his eyes and still asks for a hope that he can be forgiven. But all of a sudden, as he opened his eyes, he's now in a white plane with nothing around him. He looked around confused for a moment, then he started questioning where he was. After wondering for a bit, a voice called out to him and asked him a question, "Do you regret your life?" He then turns around but he sees nothing. The mysterious voice then asks him again if he regretted his life. After that, Joong Seok quickly got mad and told the ghost to come out and face him. After hearing his demands, a ray of light then shines down upon him. As he turns around, an angelic being came to his grace as Joong Seok looked upon it like he had just found his hope. Upon meeting Joong Seok, the angel perceived that his soul was already corrupted by the evil deeds he had committed in life, and that it was only just that he be sent straight to Hell's Gate. Even though he could still repent in his final moments, she saw a glimmer of hope in him. As he remembered that moment before his death, he felt only shame, knowing that his actions had been wrong. His pride was wounded, but he took responsibility for his actions and accepted his punishment. But then, the angel suddenly asked him what he would do if he had another chance. Joong Seok found the angel's words suspicious and wondered what it was talking about. The angel could not give him an answer, but it needed his reply instead. Joong Seok wished he had not lived like a gangster and hoped he could have lived a normal life without killing anyone. The angel was intrigued by the man's repentance, and wondered how he could be so honest. This led her to question whether humans were truly as evil as Satan claimed. The angel then admonished Joong Seok that his soul could not be saved, even if the ending of his new life was different. After that, she raised her hand and cast a very bright light upon him. Moments later, Joong Seok awoke in a room. He felt his body and noticed that all his wounds had been healed. As he walked to the mirror, he was shocked to see that his body looked much younger. His phone rang at that moment. He picked it up and heard a man shouting at him from the other end of the line. The man informed him that he had been expelled from school because he had been skipping classes. Joong Seok inquired as to the identity of the caller, who became enraged upon learning that Joong Seok had forgotten the name of the school's dean, Mr. Kim Pan-suk. Mr. Kim then ordered Joong Seok to come to the school immediately. After hanging up the phone, he reflected on the events that had transpired. As he recalled what the angel had asked him earlier, he realized that he had been set back 23 years in his life, to a time before he had even dropped out of school. He cries in tears of joy and thanks the angel for giving him another chance to live a peaceful life as a normal human being. After some time, as Joong Seok dressed himself, he finally understood the angel's last words. Having prepared himself, he was now ready to go out into the world and be a productive member of society. As he walked along the path, he could not help but think of this chance to finally change the course of his life. This time, he was determined to succeed in school. As Joong Seok was about to walk down the hill, a man called out to him. He turned around to see that it was Kim Suk-hyun, the town's gangster. Kim Suk-hyun asked Joong Seok why he was going to school when it was almost lunchtime. He then remembers the day when he used to hang out with him. They remembered the time when they took money off of kids passing by and went to the arcade or to play pool. Though it's been a long time, it was nice to see even a gangster like him. Joong Seok was overjoyed at that moment and greeted them politely, but he forgot that he was only 18 years old at the time. This made Kim very angry, as he was Joong Seok's senior at the time. Joong Seok immediately apologizes and tells him that it's been a long time since they met. And after pissing him off another time, he eventually breaks it to him and says that was just thinking of introducing him to the Hyungnims since he noticed that he was praiseworthy. It suddenly dawned on him that Kim had connections with gangsters. He also recalled that exactly 23 years ago, he had been recruited into the gang by none other than Kim Suk-hyun himself. The number one person who messed up his life. Kim's fists clenched in anger as he remembered his past. He did not like Joong Seok's attitude and planned to teach him a lesson. However, before he could get close, Joong Seok told him to shut his mouth and grabbed his face. Kim was unable to move due to Joong Seok's vice-like grip, and at the same time, his partner joined the fray and charged at Joong Seok, ready to strike him. He glanced in the direction of his opponent and deftly caught his punch. After absorbing the blow, he retaliated with a powerful punch of his own, which sent his opponent reeling. No sooner had Kim risen to his feet than he was struck by another kick, which sent him sprawling to the ground once more. Joong Seok was now clearly in control of the situation. If Kim had not been involved in this life of crime, he would have been able to live a much more peaceful existence. Kim queried Joong Seok if he had finally lost his mind. Joong Seok then attempted to attack him again, and Kim attempted to block the attack. Just before he could strike Joong Seok again, he was suddenly reminded of the question the angel had asked him earlier. Just after that, he breaks his fist and nudges him on his chin instead. He then promises to Kim that he'll surely kill him the next time he gets on his nerves. After telling them to stay away from him, he went on his way and walked to school. As he continued walking along the path, he steeled his resolve and vowed not to squander his second chance to improve his life. As he reached the school gate, he realized that, since he had no further ties to the gang, he could finally start enjoying his school life. In the dean's office, Joong Seok was bluntly told to drop out due to his 36 absences, 9 cases of violence within the school, 6 cases of stealing, 14 instances of smoking, and 29 other infractions. With this much violation, the dean got fed up with him and said that it would be better if he could send him out immediately. As Joong Seok showed frustration, Mr. Kim then told him about his attitude as well and that he should have dropped out of school because of it. Joong Seok considered beating the dean up as he stared at him. He quickly calmed himself down and thought carefully about the situation. He did not want to screw up his life again. He then requested a meeting with the dean, and began by stating that he had come to school that day with the intention of learning like a proper student. He then admitted to the dean that he had done a lot of bad things to the other students because he was a jerk. Joong Seok's life is in shambles, and his teacher, Mr. Kim, reminds him of his responsibilities to his students. However, Mr. Kim wants Joong Seok to drop out of school after coming all this way to study. The dean was left in complete shock after hearing the students' statements. He had not expected such a sudden change in attitude, as if he was talking to a completely different person. The student had always been an unruly child who couldn't care less about studying. Despite all of this, the teacher thought that it would be worth a try, as it would benefit him as a teacher as well if he could control the most problematic student in the school. After some consideration, he asked Joong Seok if he was truly going to be a proper student this time. The principal assured the student that he could expel him if he ever committed even a single misdeed. After they had each affirmed their words, later in class 2 to 4, a couple of students were having a conversation, while their teacher stood in front of them, trying to get the class to quiet down. Joong Seok entered the classroom, where he had not been as a student for quite some time. He was greeted by his friends, and their faces told him that he had come to the right place. The teacher then noticed him, and as Joong Seok greeted her with a smile, she was intimidated and nervous for some reason. In a flashback, the teacher, Han Ji-hee, introduced herself as the class's homeroom and English teacher for the year. She expressed her eagerness to get to know everyone in the class. The delinquents then demonstrated a lack of respect for their teacher by leering at her and asking her if she's ever been in a relationship. She brushed it off as a joke and started to begin the lesson. Joong Seok interjected abruptly, saying that the answer was not difficult at all, or perhaps she had never been in a relationship before. Miss Han was rendered speechless, and she instructed the delinquents to cease their behavior as she was about to begin her lesson. Joong Seok suddenly slammed the desk, startling the teacher. He tells Miss Han that he was just joking around and people might think that he's trying to shoot his shot on the teacher as his friends laugh behind his back. Miss Han was flabbergasted by their disrespect and was on the verge of tears. Returning to the present, that was the primary reason why Miss Han did not want him to return. Joong Seok's friends were suddenly riled up, prepared to make a fool out of Miss Han. As he went inside the classroom, he suddenly struck them on the head and lectured them on the importance of respecting their teacher. He apologizes to Miss Han for being late and she was surprised at him. She found it unusual for Joong Seok to apologize, and she wondered if he was just playing a trick on her. He goes to his seat beside Four Eyes. He tells him to not be selfish and share his textbook with him, and Four Eyes complied. Miss Han was astonished to see Joong Seok studying. She even wondered if it was really the same Joong Seok who was known for being a troublemaker. Joong Seok was pretending to study because he didn't understand anything he was reading, as he had never tried to study before. After class had ended, Joong Seok's friends were curious about his behavior, as he was not acting like himself. Joong Seok responded to their curiosity by telling them that he has decided to live a good life and that he wants them to do the same. He also told them to take care of themselves. Joong Seok's friends did not comprehend what he was saying, so he immediately kicked them out of class so they could go get some food while a classmate takes a look at him while he gets outside. Joong Seok excitedly drank apple juice and said that he hadn't tasted anything so good in 20 years. His friends were confused and asked him if his brain was broken. Joong Seok was walking with his friends when an upperclassman stopped him. Joong Seok had just returned after a long absence, and the upperclassman had heard rumors about him. Then she told him that someone wanted to see him. It was a person named Kang Yong-ji. Then after a while she asked him to follow her. After arriving to the location, he was met by Kang Yong-ji greeting him if he was well. Back then, Kang Yong-ji was the ruler of the school and he was acquainted with him since both of them never really had bad blood with each other. However, that was only a thing from the past. Joong Seok told Kang to cut to the chase. Kang didn't like his attitude but tells him anyway. He wants Joong Seok to do a job with him. Joong Seok then tells him to fuck off, to which Kang took offense, telling him to repeat what he had just said. Joong Seok repeats it again and tells him that he isn't crazy to work together with a drug junkie. His underlings around him can't believe what they just heard about Kang being a drug addict. He was flustered on how Joong Seok knew since he was never seen doing drugs in the first place. Joong Seok was having fun teasing him since he knows that Kang will become a druggy con artist in the future. Then he left telling them to not call upon his presence since he doesn't want to get involved with them. He also teases them by telling to quit sniffing and go to rehabilitation before they get addicted. Kang's subordinates were enraged and holds him by his shoulder, stopping Joong Seok, telling him that they would not tolerate such disrespect. Joong Seok was frustrated that they wouldn't listen to him when he spoke nicely, so he paid them back by twisting the senior's arm. He then issued a challenge to Kong for a duel, and Kong was filled with rage. This is all for part 1 of the manhwa. If you've enjoyed, comment down below, like, and subscribe. Have a good day in peace.